Hello and welcome back. In this video, we will look at the second chapter from Standard 12 English, The Flamingo Book. The name of the chapter is Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, and it is written by Anis Jung. Let us look at the author first. Anis Jung was born in Roorkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She belonged to an aristocratic family and her parents were both writers. She has been an editor and a columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad and has authored several books. Her most noted work is Unveiling India, which was published in 1987, which is a detailed chronicle of the lives of women in India. The following story is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. Before we proceed with the story, it is important to throw some light on the background of the story. This story was published in 2005. It focuses on children from deprived background. Anis Jung is noted for her lively and vivid descriptions. She analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. This chapter, which is an excerpt from Jung's book titled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, is divided into two separate stories which tell us the story of two poor boys who, rather than going to school, are engaged in hazardous work. We will discuss the two stories individually in two separate videos. So, let us look at the first story. It is called Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. This is about the author's encounter with a rag picker boy named Sahib Alam. He visits the nearby garbage dump every morning in search of gold in the garbage. The author asks him, "Why do you do this?" Sahib informs that he had left his home in Dhaka, Bangladesh, long ago and of which he had no clear memories. Sahib's mother had told him that their home and fields were destroyed by the storms and thus they had moved to the city looking for gold. So Sahib is a small boy who is a rag picker, and every morning he comes to the garbage dump in search of gold. Now, gold over here is a very symbolic term which stands for anything and everything that they need, ranging from food for survival up to anything that is valuable and useful. They feel if they can get anything at all, it is in the big cities, hence, they move to the big cities. So, that was the reason why even Sahib's family had moved from Dhaka, which is in Bangladesh, to the big city of Delhi. Okay, so Sahib's mother had already informed Sahib about the storms which had destroyed their villages, and that is why they had moved to the city in search of some livelihood. No longer their villages could provide them the means for survival. That is why they had come looking for work and in that way looking for food and a means of survival in big cities. As an answer to the author's question, Sahib says, "I have nothing else to do." So when author asks Sahib that why do you pick rags, why do you do garbage picking, he says that he has nothing else to do. So then the author casually advises him to go to school, but she immediately realizes the hollowness of her advice. To this, the rag picker boy replies that there was no school in his neighborhood and promised to join when it would be built there. So, due to the lack of any school in his neighborhood, Sahib could not receive his education, and the author over here also makes him a false promise that she would be starting a school soon and that he could join it. So, over here, the author did not really mean this seriously. She said it in a very lighter sense, but Sahib has taken it seriously, and every morning Sahib comes and asks the author if the school was ready. The author feels embarrassed and ashamed at having made such a false promise. So, the author now she is ashamed that she said something which she cannot fulfill. So, Sahib's words are full of his world, rather, I'm sorry. His world is full of such promises, such hollow promises, empty promises that everyone makes to him, but they are never fulfilled. They never see the light of the day. Many unfulfilled dreams of Sahib and children like him, deprived children like Sahib, they have dreams which never get fulfilled. Author comes to know about the name of the boy Sahib Alam after a few months and feels that it is an extremely inappropriate and ironic name. She wonders if the boy knows the meaning of his name, Lord of the Universe. So, if Sahib came to know the real meaning of his name, he would feel it to be unsuitable for him because of the life that he leads. Author sees Sahib roaming the streets with a group of rag picking boys, his friends, who were mostly bare feet. They either walked without shoes or wore some torn footwear which they picked up from the garbage heaps. So, Sahib's friends as well as Sahib, they do not even have shoes to wear. They are so poor, and even if they are wearing shoes, most of it is torn. She asks, "Why aren't you wearing any chappals?" "My mother did not bring them down from the shelf," he answers simply. One boy says it is a tradition not to wear shoes in their family. Author wonders whether this tradition really exists or it is an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So, the boy in that group who says that it is a tradition, it's a custom, it's a way of life of not wearing shoes in their family must be lying in order to hide the unending poverty which has gripped their family. They are extremely poor and they don't have adequate resources to fill their stomachs, let alone wearing shoes. Another boy expresses his wish to own a pair of shoes. At this point, the author is reminded of a story a man from Udupi once told her, and in that story, she tells us that there was a little boy whose father was a priest, and whenever the little boy used to go to school, on his way to school, there was a temple, and in that temple, he used to go where his father was a priest. He used to go and pray to the Lord to give him a pair of shoes. And he also used to pray that after getting the pair, let me have those shoes, let me never lose those shoes. So, after 30 years, when the author once visited that place, he saw that that little boy had now grown up to be a priest and he had also a son. And his son, he came back from school, he was wearing socks and shoes, and thus the standard of living of the people in that place had risen. They were now able to afford shoes, but in contrast to this priest and his son, the rag pickers in her neighborhood are not so fortunate to afford to wear shoes. Author now shifts attention to the place where Sahib lives. After migrating from Bangladesh in 1971, they moved to a place called Simapuri in Delhi. Simapuri was a wilderness which is uninhabited or inhospitable area then, and it still remains the same. The only difference now is that the area is no longer empty. It has turned into a colony for 10,000 rag pickers with no proper drainage or sewage or running water. and obviously, such conditions are very inappropriate to live in. The inhabitants of Simapuri live in mud structures with roof of tin and tarpaulin. They have been living there for more than 30 years. These people don't have any identity proof or permits to stay there. They only possess ration cards which allow them to buy food and vote. According to the women living in Simapuri, who are mothers to these rag picking children, this place is better than their homes amidst green fields and rivers back in Bangladesh since they can fill their stomachs here. For these mothers, feeding the family is more important than getting an identity proof. They are satisfied if their children sleep peacefully at night without an aching stomach. In the present place where they are living right now, that is Simapuri, the only means of survival is rag picking. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. So, after migrating from Bangladesh, they never really had any documents with them which would prove their identity. They had no permits to stay, yet, they were given ration cards by which they could get some grains and could fill their stomachs, and that was more than enough for them. So, the only aim in their lives is to survive, is to remain alive. The only way of getting food and shelter is the garbage dump, which they scrounge all through the day to find gold. That is, anything which is precious or helpful for them. Wherever they find food or means to give food to their children, they pitch their tents. It becomes their home. So these rag pickers, the adult rag pickers, to them, garbage dumps are the means of survival. They earn their bread and butter through scrounging these garbage dumps, and wherever they see a dump, they just set up their temporary homes and stay there, work there, feed themselves and their children, and when the scope of work dies, they again move to another place. In contrary to the thought of the elders, these garbage dumps are more than just a means of survival for these children. It is a means of providing them with wrapped wonders. So, for the children, these garbage dumps, they sometimes prove to be a source of surprise or amazement or wonder. Why? Because garbage dumps provide them more than mere food and shelter. Sometimes they find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, silver coin, and torn shoes. So, rupee, coin, torn shoes, all these things, they are beyond their basic needs. So whenever they find something more than the things which are required for fulfilling their basic needs, these people, they become excited. One winter morning, the author finds Sahib standing outside a fenced tennis court, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. He tells the author that he likes the game, that he is content to watch it standing behind the fence. Sometimes he goes inside when no one is around. He admits that the gatekeeper allows him inside and he takes the swing. So, this liking for tennis is very unique to Sahib, and sometimes he likes to stand just outside the fence and watch tennis being played. And if he is lucky enough, he also goes inside the tennis court, and the gatekeeper allows him inside and he plays on the swing. The author notices that Sahib is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. So the author, however, feels that he found the torn pair in a heap of garbage discarded by some rich boy who refused to wear it for obvious reasons. What is the reason? Because it is torn, he will not wear it. But this does not bother Sahib because for a boy who has walked bare feet for most of his life, wearing even torn shoes is like a dream come true. So we must all remember that Sahib belongs to a very, very poor family and he's a rag picker. He depends on the garbage dump for his survival. For such a person, wearing even a torn pair of shoes is very, very precious. It's almost like an achievement. However, it is beyond Sahib's means to engage in the game of tennis. That is, Sahib may like to watch the game of tennis, but the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. He cannot play tennis even if he wants to. That is, tennis is a game for the rich. Another morning, the author finds Sahib going to a milk booth holding a steel can in his hand. He has started working in a tea stall where he is paid 800 rupees and they also provide all his meals. But he has lost his carefree look as he is no longer his own master. So Sahib does not like the job at the tea stall. The steel can seems heavier than the plastic bag he used to carry over his shoulder as a rag picker. The bag was his. The can belongs to his employer, the owner of the tea shop. So, see, Sahib has now become an employee. He is under the supervision of a master. He has to listen to someone else now. He cannot listen to his own self. He has gone into someone else's hands and hence he is answerable to someone now. So his freedom is curbed. He feels imprisoned and hence he has lost his sense of freedom. So with this we end the first part of the video. I will see you in the next part. Thank you.